getting settled in a posture where your breathing can feel relaxed. And we are coming to stillness to explore this idea of natural breathing or original breathing. Which is kind of an undoing of breathing habits that we have all accumulated over our lives for all these different reasons. We all have a history of how we've been in our bodies, what we've experienced, the good and the minor traumas and sometimes the major traumas. Perhaps having had conditions like pneumonia, or some people have a lot of chest infections in their lives. Some people have chronic conditions affecting their lungs like asthma, or recurring ones like a kind of winter bronchitis or a hay fever or an allergy. Having been pregnant affects the lungs during pregnancy, and sometimes our breathing patterns change then, and they don't always come back to where they were before. So as you are now being aware of your breath, where can you feel it in your body most, the movement of it? And is there anywhere in your body you could relax a little more, particularly around your torso and your shoulders, to allow your breath to move more freely? And before we do a full yoga breath, we can also consider that our breathing is three-dimensional. Our lungs can expand backwards and forwards, upwards and downwards, to the left and to the right. And of course, if you're lying on your back, there'll be less breathing to the back of the body and more to the front. If you're lying on your side, on your left side, your right lung will breathe more than your left, and vice versa. In the position where you are now, can you allow your breath to expand in all the directions that aren't pressed against the floor or a chair? Or if you're sitting on a chair, you can move away from the back of your chair a little to allow the back of the lungs to breathe. And then our breathing might already be a bit fuller and feel a bit deeper, having done this awareness work. And then for the next out breath that you do, I invite you to breathe out very fully, completely. And then allow your in-breath to flow in. Notice where it goes. Where does it expand? And then breathing out again fully. Think of the exhale as the start of the breath. And then breathing in. The vacuum filling. And then exhaling fully emptying the lungs, and then a natural inhale. And then relax your breathing. Relaxing your belly. And then being aware of all of us practicing together, breathing together. You don't need to look at the screen to know that. You may have seen some of the people you know from the normal studio classes, the people you're getting to know from the Zoom classes, people you know from other areas of the community where you've encountered each other. Being aware of practicing together. And this might also be one way of moving from warrior pose to warrior pose. Community traditionally is quite a big aspect of spiritual practices. It could be monastic communities, but also lay communities of practice. People coming together on Sunday in the church to pray together, to chant together. These are all kind of found in yoga practice, these aspects of community, of working together. There's a motivation that comes from turning up at a particular time with a group of people, moving together, sharing something together, traveling together in some way, traveling together through this crisis. Many of you coming more than once a week as well. So for a moment, reflecting on a sense of support that might be giving you, or increased motivation. Would you be as likely to do this much practice if you were left completely to your own devices? How is it helpful to come together virtually via Zoom to keep up your practice? And then letting that go. And then we'll do some movements with breathing. So you can do this seated or lying down. Again, we're going to start with the exhale, to see and utilize the exhale as the start of a cycle, start of a breathing cycle. So as we exhale, we're going to notice our arms by our side. So maybe your palms are on the floor by your side, lying down, or next to you if you're sitting up. And then exhaling fully, perhaps feeling the shoulders release down a little. And then breathing in, allowing our arms to come up. Breathing out, allowing our arms to come down. Fully breathing out. Breathing in, coming up. And seeing if you can exhale again fully, emptying the lungs, and then the kind of natural inflation of the lungs, inviting the arms to rise up and back down after the inhale. And doing this 3 more times at the pace of your own breathing. Exhaling fully, lowering the arms, inhaling, rising up. So allowing the breath to be deeper and fuller than usual. And within that, finding a natural sensation for you. Doing up to 6, and if it feels too strong to do 6, then stop and relax anytime you like. And when you've done up to 6, no rush, keep going at your own pace. When you've done up to 6, bringing your hands down to your belly. And seeing if you can really relax and soften your belly. If you're sitting down, it might be most comfortable to let your hands overlap and hug your belly, just demonstrating that on the screen. And holding your lower belly in that way. If you're lying on your back, letting your elbows rest on the floor and perhaps your hands are wider apart in that case. Just how your belly is this morning. Sense of being in touch with your belly through the touch of your hands. You could also close your eyes and see if you can feel it from the inside. Maybe you can hear it too. Maybe you can hear gurgling or feel gurgling. So the lower belly area in yoga is associated with a sense of stability and safety. The root chakra inside the pelvis, the pelvic floor, the ground of the torso, and then above that, the sacral chakra, and above that, the navel chakra. And the sacral chakra associated with a kind of basic sense of self and self in relationship. Svadhisthana chakra is the Sanskrit word, and Svadhisthana means the dwelling place. And you might also have heard it called the Dantian or the Hara, which are terms from Tai Chi, and Taoism, and Qigong, Zen practice. And it's often also associated with a kind of strength of intuition, instinct, the gut feeling. There's a wisdom there, there's a kind of warrior-like quality there in the lower belly, which is a little different from the courage of the heart. And then the navel chakra is the fire, the digestive fire, our personal energy that we bring to things. So those 3 kind of layers of the energetic body or the emotional body, the subtle body in yoga are very important kind of areas of support for how we are in our lives. And if we don't eat enough, or our digestion is not working well, that's going to affect our whole being. If we're not kind of settled in our close, important relationships and our relationship with ourselves, we're not going to operate or feel very well in the world. If we don't have a basic sense of okayness or safety, which is the root chakra again, Muladhara chakra, and that's also going to kind of destabilize us. So we're going to think about this whole area today. As you hold your belly there and breathe, you can bring a kind of sense of awareness to it, infused with kindness. It's a very central place in our body. And we're going to start working with it now on a level that may seem quite physical, but can also really deepen that sense of inner resilience, inner resources, inner strength and safety, which is by doing some core exercises, core work. So it's helpful for these to lie down and to start with your knees bent. So if you've been sitting, now coming to the floor. There are some ways of doing that sitting. If you've got any issues with lying down today, you can certainly follow the first couple of things, which are very kind of internal work. If you're just coming to lying down, take a moment to settle the four corners of your back. If you've been lying down for a while, that might still be useful, like how is my back now? Can I adjust something? Do I need a little bit of a wriggle to kind of spread my back on the floor? And then the hands on the lower belly, we can create a bit of a diamond shape, the diamond gesture with the thumbs together, the index fingers together, and the other fingers can be spread out. If you're not sure, you can take a quick look at the screen, just showing it to you there. And you can place that on your belly if that's comfortable. Do let your hands come apart if that feels better, or it enables you to rest your elbows more comfortably on the floor. And then the feet and the knees about hip width apart, and shuffling your feet to a comfortable place where your legs can relax. And then resting the hands with that diamond shape on our belly, then your thumbs might be more or less at the level of your navel, or maybe just below. And your hands covering most of your lower belly. Your fingertips might be towards the edge of your pubic area. Your little fingers might come down towards your hip crease. So kind of diamond shape there. And then we'll first bring our attention again to the breath, and now very much taking your attention inside to your pelvic floor, which is also a diamond shape. So you can imagine like a diamond or kite shape, but it's more like a diamond. more equally sided than a kite shape. So it's this layer of muscles which attaches on the inside of your pubic bone at the front and on the inside of your tailbone at the back, and then on the inside of each sitting bone, left and right. It's like a muscular hammock of muscles. And as we breathe in, as long as the belly isn't tense, the belly is relaxed, this pelvic floor moves in tandem with the diaphragm, which sits between your lungs and your belly. On the in-breath, it moves down towards the bony base of your pelvic floor. And as you exhale, it moves back up, as the diaphragm moves back up into the chest cavity. So see if you can feel that inside. You can close your eyes if that helps you. And if you can become aware of your pelvic floor, you can see if you can relax it consciously on the in-breath, or check whether it is relaxed on the in-breath. And whether you can feel this very subtle contraction on the out-breath. And it's normally happening quite unconsciously in a healthy body. It'll be happening automatically without having to think about it as you breathe. And it would also contract and release with effort and release of effort. And again, sometimes those breathing patterns change. And those movement patterns change for whatever reason throughout our lives. They're not kind of aligned anymore with the breath and with how the body makes effort. We're going to bring some conscious awareness to it to strengthen and support muscles, as well as realign the kind of nervous system rhythms between breath and movement, diaphragm and pelvic floor. So now as you exhale, towards the end of the exhale, I would like you to consciously contract the pelvic floor. You might also feel a flattening or contracting of your belly. And then as you breathe in, to consciously relax that again, so your belly can fully expand again, downwards as well as forwards. And if you don't know what I mean by contracting your pelvic floor or how to do it, it's very simply what we do if we need the toilet and we're stopping ourselves, we're waiting to get to the toilet. And there's slightly different muscle areas for the bladder and the anus. And usually it's easiest to just use them all at the same time. You can contract them separately. But it's usually helpful, especially if you're not so experienced with it, to contract them all at the same time. So as you exhale, imagining you're holding it all in, kind of contraction inwards and upwards, around the genitals, around the anus, and in between, in the perineum, the skin between your genitals and your anus is the center of that diamond shape of your pelvic floor. And you can perhaps sense that pulling up. And on the in-breath, we're letting it all relax. And on the out-breath, we're contracting it. And the other image or intentional movement that might help is to imagine that you're lying down to try and do up some trousers that are actually too tight, to zip up trousers that are actually too tight. Then you would breathe out and hold your stomach in and squeeze it all in. And then once you'd zipped up, you could let it go again, and then your trousers would contain you, as it were. I don't recommend wearing trousers that are that tight because it would affect your breathing all day long. But that image might help you on the exhale to kind of zip everything in. And you might also feel something on the contraction deep inside your buttock area, near your sitting bones and your tailbone. The back point of the diamond and the side points. And then we'll do one last one, really deeply contracting. And then relaxing, just letting the breath relax and allowing your pelvic floor to find its own rhythm again. And this can feel quite tiring, this internal practice. And if you have recurring back problems or any issues with continence, incontinence perhaps, any prolapse issues like bladder issues, hemorrhoids, these are extremely helpful. Especially if you found this kind of tiring and a bit tricky, recommend doing them. Then we're going to extend our legs for a moment, and if it's not so comfortable to extend your legs, start with just the right leg. So see how it is with both legs. If it's uncomfortable for your back, bend your left knee again, see if that works better. You could also do this with both knees bent. See how it is, and you could do it seated. So on an exhale, we're going to contract our buttock muscles slowly and gradually until they're fully contracted. And then on the inhale, slowly release. Seeing if you can do it smoothly without juddering. There might be a bit of juddering. And do this 3 times. So slowly and fully contract. Your hips will lift a little and gently stretch at the front. And then slowly release. The buttock muscles are part of our core support for our back. And they can also hold chronic tension. That's why we're going to full release, bringing awareness to the slow full contraction as well as the full slow release. Just like with the breath, enabling the muscles to go through their full range. And when you've done 3, bending both knees, bringing them in towards your chest, hugging them in, and taking a little rock from side to side to massage your lower back and release your buttock muscles in this flexion movement. This can be very good for any chronic tension in the lower back and buttocks, which again can contribute to back pain. Then noticing how your lower back is probably fairly flat against the floor. Rest your arms by your side. If you've got back problems, your back is sensitive, any history of herniated discs, do this next one with one leg at a time. We're going to keep our knees bent, and that's really important, especially if you have back issues at the moment or recent back issues. And we're going to, on an exhale, slowly lower the right foot back down towards the floor, keeping our back close to the floor. You can do both legs at the same time if your back is okay. And then breathing in, and then the next exhale, the other leg. Lovely. And then we're going to straighten our legs again, or just straighten one leg doing the other side from before, which I think was straightening the left leg this time. And then we're going to again do 3 squeezing of the buttock muscles, strongly squeezing as much as you can, holding it for a moment and then slowly releasing and fully relaxing for a moment. And then again, breathing in, strongly squeezing. Breathing out, slowly, gradually, fully relaxing. And once more, fully contracting and fully releasing. Lovely. And then one by one, bending our knees again. And then this time, crossing the right thigh over the left. And bringing your knees in towards your chest. So your thighs are crossed and your hands can interlace around your top knee. And then just bringing your knees close in and then drawing a little circle with your top knee. So this is a bit more deeply stretching the buttock muscles, lower back, and the outside of your hips. And circling the other way. Lovely. And then you can keep your feet off the floor if you can. Maybe engage your core a little bit to help you do this, crossing your legs over the other way. And then hugging your top knee in towards you again and drawing a little circle in one direction, guiding this with your hands and going the other way. And then uncrossing your legs again, hugging your knees in towards your chest. And then once more, keeping your back fairly flat against the floor on an exhale, keeping your knees bent, lowering your feet to the ground one by one if you've got any back issues recently or currently. Coming to the starting position of bridge pose. And then going to strengthen and support the hamstrings and the buttock muscles. So again, support for the lower back on the knees. You can rest your arms a little distance away from your body with your palms up to help the upper back engage in a particular way to strengthen the upper back a little bit as well. So feet and hip width, your shin bones fairly vertical if you can. And then on an exhale, pressing down through your feet and your heels, letting your spine roll away from the floor, noticing the contraction at the back of your thighs and your buttocks, and slowly rolling back down, feeling that release to full relaxation. Now, if you choose to go a little bit higher up with your bridge as we go along, you can start to feel your upper back and middle back as well. Engage a bit more, lifting your ribs more, opening the muscles of the chest more. Seeing how that is. Or you might choose to keep your bridge a bit lower. See how your energy levels are and so on. How your back feels. So it's fine to keep it much lower and to just lift a little bit. It's fine to create a big, curvy bridge. That's where your body feels like going. And similarly with staying in the pose, it develops a kind of different strength to maintain a pose. So there's different fibers in our muscles. Some are really designed for staying in position, and some are designed for fast movement, some are designed for weight lifting, and some are designed for light movement. So when we're bringing our own body weight up, we're using slightly different muscles to staying in position. It's worth staying in position for a few breaths if you can. And lowering back down. And then when you come down this time, bringing your knees in towards your chest again. And taking a rock from side to side, this time letting your head roll in the opposite direction of your knees. You can hug your knees, or if you prefer, you can take your arms out at shoulder level and do a little bit more of a rotation for your spine and into a slightly deeper twist. Just notice again what makes your back feel happy. Might be a very small movement, it might be a much bigger movement for you today. And then coming back to the center. And again, we can lower our feet to the floor with bent knees, either one by one or together on the exhale, feeling your core engage as you control that movement. Coming back to the starting point of bridge, which is also the starting point for mini sit-ups. So we're going to interlace our fingers, take our head in our hands, resting our head in our hands. And then you can do this without your arms, but that will be a bit stronger for your neck muscles. Or you could do it with one hand. Say if you've got an injury on one shoulder, do it with one hand. And we're going to breathe out and bring our elbows in towards our head and then slowly roll up, head towards the knees. Breathing in, moving back down, allowing our elbows to release away from our head towards the floor, maybe onto the floor. And then the next exhale, coming back up. So again, slow, gradual contraction, bringing the elbows in. Slow, gradual release on the inhale, releasing the elbows out. Doing this up to 4 more times, as slowly as you can with slow breaths. And now we're strengthening the core on the more superficial layer of abdominal muscles between the ribs and the front of the pelvis. Done the deeper layer of muscles with the first exercises. And now we're doing the outer layer. Slow breathing and coming back to full release. helpful for our digestion. Massage for our digestion, our bowels, as well as coming to full relaxation. So teaching our body and our insides to move freely, have space and have full range of in-breath, out-breath and movement. Lovely. And then when we've done about 6 of those, we can relax our arms back down. Maybe reorganize our shoulders a little bit. And then stretch one or both legs out again. Spreading out on the floor, resting for a moment. Relaxing our belly, relaxing our hips. Noticing how you are. If you've just got one leg straight, then swapping over to the other leg. Just allowing our hips to release, so as muscles to release these internal hip muscles that are a really important part of our core stabilization, particularly in standing and walking. So we're working on those in lying down before we work them in standing. And then we'll bend both knees again. And we'll interlace our hands behind our head again. And you can use the interlace that feels a bit unusual. So arms together, interlace in a kind of prayer gesture, and then moving all your fingers up or down once, so your other thumbs are on top, and it feels a bit unusual. And again, resting your head in your hands if that feels okay. And then this time we're going to do the muscles at the side of the waist, the abdominal muscles that come across from the waist towards the center of the belly. And on the exhalation, we're going to come up and take the right elbow towards the left knee. On the inhale, coming down. And next exhale, taking the left elbow towards the right knee, coming up and coming back down. And doing that twice more to each side. 3 to each side. Full relaxation at the end of the inhale. Elbows releasing towards the floor, and then exhaling, contracting, and this slight turn towards one knee. And when you next do the left elbow towards the right knee, making that the last one. And then relaxing our arms back down. Letting our head roll from side to side a few times. Taking our arms out to shoulder level and rolling our arms forwards and back a couple of times. In other words, palms down and then palms up. And then rolling onto one side, taking a couple of breaths on our side. And then coming up to sitting. So this first one you might remember from a recent class. We have our feet hip width apart. So I'll just show you my feet. I mean wider than hip width, mat width. So it's about the width of my green mat. That's underneath my purple one. And it might be a little bit more narrow or a little bit wider. Kind of get a sense of how it feels for you. And then with that, we encourage our tail to hang down, our tailbone to hang down, and our spine to be very upright. So Vanda Scaravelli, the Italian yoga teacher I'm influenced by, also talks about this kind of rooting down through the tail and the heels, like a tree, as well as growing tall like a tree towards the light. And it instantly gives us a bit of core strength in the belly kicking in. And it doesn't need to be held tight. It just happens automatically from a kind of good upright posture. And we can also notice our feet. So we're talking a little bit about this before class. So sometimes our ankles collapse inwards a little bit and we put more weight onto the inner edges of our feet, and sometimes we go the other way. So you can think about the 3 points of our feet on the ground, the heels, the big toe and the little toe. So we've got balance there. And then from there we draw a circle with our tail, as if we're drawing a circle with the tip of our furry tail, maybe a tiger or a horse's tail. What kind of animal would you like to be today, as long as it has a long tail? And we won't worry about the fact that those animals don't stand on 2 legs. It's just for a bit of fun. But also might give us that sense of quality that a wild cat would have, that springiness or speed, as well as being able to deeply relax like a cat, being able to gallop like a horse. So there might be some animal-like qualities we would like to embody as part of being resilient and strong. And circling the other way. So this is strengthening the pelvic floor and all those lower chakra areas, muscles in movement. Lovely, and then we'll come back to the center. And we'll step our feet hip width apart. And then we'll do a warrior sequence, which is again potentially quite strengthening and opening for the lower body and the hips. The psoas muscles I mentioned earlier, these deep hip muscles that connect our spine to our hips and our thighs. So I'll mirror you. So I'm stepping forwards with my left foot, but it looks like my right foot on the screen. So back a bit again. And I started off with my feet fairly parallel, one step forwards, and the back heel drawing into the floor. Now, if you feel a bit unstable, feel free to turn your back foot out a little bit. See if you can get a stretch in your calf though, and the stretch at the front of your hip. And the front knee is bent. And then again, we can think about our tail dropping down. So there's a bit of engagement here. So sideways on. I'm not just going to letting my back arch. There's a slight sense of tucking down, not a strong tucking under. I'm not doing a massive tucking under like this. It's kind of in between. You could do a little contract and release there, and just kind of find a sense of your tail dropping down. And then once you've got that, looking straight ahead with an open gaze. No need to look at the screen constantly because that affects our posture from our head. So we still also want to have that upright movement through the top of the head, through the crown. So rooted and tall. And then we'll take our arms forwards and up. They might be by the side of your head or slightly forwards. And then taking a deep breath in, and on the exhale, taking your right arm forwards and your left arm down behind you. Taking a couple of breaths there, feeling the shape of the warrior, the embodiment of the warrior, with the strength in your core. How does your pelvic floor feel in this? Is there a sense of a base there? How is your belly? Now releasing your arms and stepping back. And then taking your other foot forwards, your right foot. No, your left foot, sorry. I'm doing my right and it looks like my left, I think. And again, establishing this support here by letting your tailbone hang down, your crown move up, your front knee bent, your back heel really plugged into the floor. So there's also a sense of slightly pushing ourselves up through the back heel, as well as sinking down through the front. There's that kind of sense of going down to go up. And taking our arms up, feeling the length in the body for a couple of breaths. Where is your breath going now in terms of those 3 dimensions? Forwards, backwards, upwards, downwards and sideways. And then on the next exhale, taking your left arm forwards and your right arm back into Warrior 2. Feeling the warrior pose. And then releasing it. And stepping back. And then stepping forwards again with the right leg. Maybe you're ready to extend your warrior stride a bit, having done it once on each side. Maybe your calf muscle is loosened up a bit, or your hip muscle. As long as you can still have this sense of an upright spinal column and strength in your belly and your pelvic floor, and stability in your whole body. And breathing in, taking your arms up. Breathing out, right arm down, left arm behind. Feeling the warrior, and if you were here on Monday, you might want to bring to mind your archetypal warrior image. You might have been working with or reflecting on what you do with a little bit of a warrior you know or have seen in the movies. And then we'll change sides once more. Left foot forwards, establishing our posture from the root up. And then breathing in, taking the arms up. Breathing out, left arm forwards, right arm behind. Whilst we hold it this time, reflecting what could I do with a bit of this warrior quality in my life right now? Maybe in the supermarket, keeping people at 2 meters distance. Gently letting that go. Coming back to mountain pose. And then letting it go with a forward bend. So you can do a half forward bend or a full forward bend. Whatever works best for you. And then we'll come to a posture for relaxation. So you can sit for that or lie down, however you want to be. We're taking a bit of time to get ready for that. In our resting pose, you can be aware of allowing everything to come back to this naturalness that comes with resting. So it's not that moving or warrior posture isn't natural, but we're kind of finding those ways of the body sometimes having to relearn how to be when we're doing different things. And it can be kind of easiest in resting to start with, to undo some of the patterns. And then through the focused kind of core awareness we've been doing with very specific, like do this with your hips, do this with your feet. We retrain everything working together in movement, and then we come back to relaxation, to let go of those patterns again, being able to go back to full rest. So noticing how that is for you now. In sitting, we can still really explore rest pretty well, especially around the belly and the lower back. Some of the back muscles will be working if you're sitting like I am. And they're the muscles that are designed to hold us upright for long periods of time. Like the neck muscles are designed to hold our head for long periods of time. They don't get tired. They're the postural muscles that are different from, for example, the biceps that are designed to lift something or push something. So noticing in whatever position you are, how this restfulness feels in your body and your breathing. The breathing muscles are still working, of course. There's probably some subtle movement in the pelvic floor. And we can simply let all of that be, trusting our body to know what to do as we rest. Now observing our body in movement and relaxation can enhance also this sense of inner strength, this resilience. Our body knows what to do. We've got this far in life, perhaps through all sorts of illness and injury, and some things will have left their mark. And still, our bodies are well enough today to do yoga. We are still breathing. We fell asleep last night and woke up. Perhaps in our mind rejoicing and appreciating this human body that we are in. So much more than a brain taxi. And as you breathe in, you might want to send an inner smile of gratitude, or even saying the words thank you to your body. Breathing in, thank you. Breathing out, relaxing. Relaxing into every part of yourself, every part of your body that now feels at ease. And becoming aware of your environment again, sounds around you. Sunlight. Gently coaxing your body back to movement. Maybe taking some deep breaths again, starting from a full exhalation. A deep inhalation. And maybe the next inhalation, a nice stretch. And release again. And maybe a little bit of a wriggle and a shake out, whatever kind of gets you ready again to continue with your day, which may be a bit more resting and stillness. See how you are and what time you have.